that's the best indicator how they haven't moved on. They had a whole summer to fix the biggest problem.
I mean, they
of
did
that
buy
Mac
Alessandro
Fred.
Martinez, Tyrell Malacia.
Well, that Mac Fred. No, I'm saying the
Eriksen.
biggest problem on the pitch is Mac Fred partnership, right? And you guys haven't fixed that. And you guys take everything on De Jong transfer just to hit the panic button, coming up with this random alternative of Rabiot. Like, fans are trying to digest whatever is happening, and goes back to what Paul shared with us.
I think you're very right in what you say about the Arsenal
crazy.
comparison. The comparison what you make about Arsenal is very true, because Arsenal were a team that were in transition for a long time.
Yeah.
After Arsene Wenger left, his legacy, what he left there and what he achieved was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And for somebody to follow him was so difficult. And I think in these last 2 years at the club, whether he should have stayed or moved on, but I think what they've struggled to do, and I think, to be fair to Arteta, this window now he's done fantastically well.
Yeah.
You know, Arsenal are not my favourite team for obvious reasons, but I think the window that they've had this year with Zinchenko, with Jesus, the players that they've brought in, he's been allowed to let Aubameyang go. So some people agreed, some people didn't agree, but I think the transition that they've come through, it's taken them time. Manchester United, I don't think they've had that transition yet.
Yeah.
They've tried so many times, and to say they're in a transitional period, it's got to come to an end at some point.
How many managers that had to go through that transitional period? As like for Arsenal, it's Emery and Arteta. There's only two post-Wenger. I just had to compare because the number of managers going through,
Provided when do you think the transition started?
And that's what Mourinho shared with us last week. I think like the media quoted him saying that I would always acknowledge one of my best achievements in my footballing career is finishing second with Manchester United, because nobody knows what's going on behind the
winning
scene.
the Europa in 2017 as well. Yeah.
I think the fans have got a good idea what's going on behind the scenes now, because more and more comes to light. You see more in the press, and you look at the protests again. The first game of the season, there was a huge protest at Old Trafford. Regardless of what the result was going to be, there was a protest already organised against the ownership. So there's been fundamental problems at that club for a long, long time now.
Absolutely.
And it's my era, I suspect your era. You grew up watching Manchester United win everything. You know, the team that winning the Premier League, Champions League, and all of a sudden now you look back, Manchester United haven't won anything for a long, long time of any kind of notability. They've not challenged for the Premier League title for a long, long time. They have to realise where they are, and they have to build from the bottom. They can't build from the top. They have to build from the bottom and put a structure back in place.
Exactly. Although they did win the Bangkok Cup recently.
Take that home.
You know, if you want to count that.
Ken, take that home.
That's like the Spurs fans trying to claim the Audi Cup.
That's what we don't want to go there.
Piala Bangkok pun Piala Bangkok lah, kan?
Because like they would say like nobody else ever won Bangkok Cup except
Betul.
them. Anyway,
but
moving on.
you see, that's the thing, Paul, because it gave so much of promise, it gave so much of belief again, right? Because the pre-season is how you use to sort of judge what is to be expected when the season begins. Okay, fine, they've been unlucky with the injury of Martial. But however, when you look at the transfer window, which is not over just yet, they still have time to actually rectify, I wouldn't say mistakes, but the lack of ambition when it comes to signing players. The main issues have always been the CDM position, the attacking options, because they knew they were not going to rely on Cristiano Ronaldo forever, right? And obviously even at right back, that's another problem position that they've been widely talking about. The fact that Aaron Wan-Bissaka is not good enough. Diego Dallo is more like a backup option.
That was a real blow this weekend for Wan-Bissaka to be on the bench and Dallo to play ahead of him.
Exactly.
You know, a new manager coming in at the start of the season, people, you know, Wan-Bissaka, he's excellent going forward, but defensive capabilities is always questioned. And then the first game of the season, regardless of what people say, pre-season, yes, it's you look at players and you get ready for the season. It's hard to judge in pre-season, but when that first game of the season comes round, the manager picks his strongest 11. No manager wants to lose on the first game of the season. He doesn't rest anybody.
Exactly.
He doesn't leave players out that he thinks, oh, I might use them next week. The first game of the season, every manager wants to win, and it tells you a lot on a manager's starting 11.
It's shocking, because what really shocked me the most, Eli, was the fact that he actually played Christian Eriksen as a false nine at times in the game. It wasn't throughout the whole game, but at times you did see it. And of course, we've known for the last 3 years that McFred is not the answer to Man United's midfield, right? So looking at you know, the squad that they have, like, what other options do they have? Like, when you look at panic buys that they were about to make, the likes of Rabiot, the likes of Arnautovic, fans have so much against it, right? But then you hear a different point of view from different pundits in the UK saying that, you know what, Man United fans are actually too demanding. Like, what do they expect? Are they a club that can still fish in the sea rather than just fish in a
bare
pond?
minimum from such an established club. Why I said that? Because the bigger question that we have to touch on right now is the lack of efforts coming from the recruiting department as well. The proposed players that have been, not proposed, like players that have been brought in so far are the ones who have been proposed by Ten Hag himself. And so far, you know, they said that players maybe, you know, like like probably has worked with before, and even the proposal of Frankie de Jong came from him as well. And that's why, as a fan, no, I'm not a fan of the club, but as a football, spectator, right? We would like. I was thinking, what are the ideas coming from the recruitment department? And this is what people are questioning.
Yeah.
Like, is there a breakdown? Like people in the recruiting department are not investing their faith and belief in this whole system?
From what I know, Paul and Ellie, there has been a reshuffle, right? John Murtaugh is still the guy who's basically doing transfers and whatnot. So from what I see with the names that are being mentioned now, the likes of Marko Arnautovic, who's 33 years old, played for Stoke City, very vocal in the dressing room, one of those guys who goes against Rabiot, mother, Veronique, who's had cases before. Yeah, she's had a bad rap, put it that way, when it comes to, speaking out and things like that. So are those the kind of profile that they're looking for? Or
Listen, you can't tell me that Ten Hag sat down with his owners, football directors, sporting directors, whoever it is, sat down a month ago when he was in charge, and Arnautovic was on any kind of list that he wanted.
No way was it.
So they make a list of players. They target areas. They have managers give the list to the chairman, to the sporting director of the areas that they want to strengthen in the team. Yeah. And between them, their scouts and their network of people that they have, they will compile a list across Europe of a top 4 list that they want. I can guarantee you that Arnautovic was not anywhere near anybody's list. And it just stinks of panic buying. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how that's come to public knowledge that they were even looking at him, but it's been reported from so many different media outlets that they were. There must be some truth in it. Like Ighalo, it's like an Ighalo signing. Exactly the same type of signing. And that's not Manchester United. That's not what Manchester United fans want. The Frankie de Jong signing, I mean, it's been going on for so long, but there's fundamental issues behind the scenes at Barcelona, which we'll obviously talk about later on in the show. I don't specifically think it's the fact he doesn't want to go to Manchester United, but I honestly feel that they don't have that pull of a player where 3, 4, 5 years ago, Manchester United come knocking on the door, you sign.
Exactly.
Now Manchester United come knocking on the door, it's
the players are second guessing to move. Like, I mean, why do I want to go to Manchester United? That's why I was a bit like confused why Eriksen chose to go. Probably okay, fine, maybe Ten Hag was the pulling reason for him.
Well, because he had offers from other clubs.
And going back to your question just now, you said that Ten Hag tried to play him as false nine, right? And I think it didn't work in that game against Brighton. That was definitely trial and error, and definitely had to be, like, you can't go back to that because, like, most of the time, like, it was shown that he was always dropping deep, trying to recover the ball, and, like, there were always 3 other players.
So him,
That's
right?
not how false nine operates. Like,
I wonder how him and Fernandes can play together, because they're very similar. One will have to go out wide. I think Eriksen will have to drop deeper. It wasn't until Manchester United brought Ronaldo on in the second half they had some kind of a structure. They had Sancho, Rashford, Eriksen, Fernandes. They were like wasps in a bottle. They didn't know where to go. They were all over the place, and there was no structure. When Ronaldo came on, he played as a figurehead, as a number 9. Sancho went left, Rashford went right,
because he knew there was a target man.
And Eriksen dropped in, and there was some kind of structure, which is why they improved in the second half. But I completely agree with you, that false 9 in the first half, it wasn't anywhere near.
Yeah, and it's so true, because Bruno Fernandes obviously wants to operate essentially as a 10. That's what he thrives on, that's what he wants. And I guess that's what Ten Hag wanted to give him. And probably in training, he did shine at that point of time when they were actually going through pre-season and stuff.